Hey, good morning, guys. Pray everything is well with you. Let me get this set up here. There we go. All right. It is Friday. Let me just turn this down here. Okay. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Let me fix my camera here. All right. Well, hello. Good morning. Good morning. I pray everything is well with you. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Tiff. Hold it down, son, baby. Wife working from home again. But anyway, this is what happens when she don't want to go in her office. I don't get that part, but it's okay. Anyway, I pray everything is well with you guys. Keith K.L. Belvin here. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Keith K.L. Belvin, crisis specialist, professional counselor, author, and educational consultant. And every Friday, I'm going to attempt, and I say that because only God knows what's to come in the future, to come on every Friday morning around this time, 9:30 to 10:30, depending on if I have a counseling session, which I do this morning, and to just check in because I have stepped away from social media. I'm on hiatus, and I have found that by readjusting my social media activity to focus on business has actually been productive. This has been an interesting first week, almost like a diet, or when you change your eating habits. The first week is always an interesting week because you go through highs, you go through lows, you go through withdrawal. Believe it or not, yes, you go through social media withdrawal. It happens. And when all of that is put into place, you still have to figure out what it is that you're doing. So, but today I want to talk about self reflection and positive mental health should start with positive. Well, let me take that back. Should just start with self reflection. Can't say if it's positive because I don't know how you're going to react to it. But I think all of us need to take time to reflect on where we are, how we're feeling, and then start to consider where we want to go, what we're currently working on that's going to help us get there. And then we also have to look at where we've come from. I think too often, and myself am guilty of this, and this week has been big in this department, right? While working on and planning and prepping and doing the things I need to do going forward and in the future, I sometimes don't take the time to take a look at what I have done. And I'm not getting on and flexing and by no stretch of the imagination, but I tend to not reward myself with any type of adulation towards the things that I have been successful at doing. And a lot of that is because of, when you're raised, when you're hood raised, we tend to in the hood take a person, we call it showing off or flexing, which I think some of you young folks call it today. A person is trying to flex a little something about what they have. And in the hood, that could be taken and often is taken in the wrong way. So you kind of get ingrained with just do you or just be super extravagant. Well, I've never been super extravagant. I've always been the low key dude because it's just how I moved. And I was a sneaky dude. You don't become the man that I was if you wasn't. And if you haven't read my book, From Gigolo to Jesus, and realize you don't become a misogynistic whore like I was and not know how to be sneaky. But all of that plays into what I'm talking about today. So here's what I want to challenge all of you. Is I want to ask you this one question, and you can put it in the chat whenever you see this, right? When's the last time that you sat down and did an honest self-evaluation. I mean, from top to bottom, the same as if a doctor was doing your annual physical, or if you're doing your annual review at work or whatever. If you're taking your car to get your car serviced, whatever. But when's the last time that you sat down and did an honest self-evaluation? Really reflected on who you are, what are you doing, why do you do it, and where are you trying to take yourself? And let me tell you why it's necessary if you want to have a positive mental health situation. You need to be as honest with yourself as possible. As honest. I looked up, let me see where it is, if I can find it again. And I would always see the term, to thy own self be true, right? To thy own self. Let me just see. But I never actually paid attention to the full statement. And when I went and read the whole statement, let me give it to you again. I think I read it the last time I was on, but I'll read it again. This above all. And I like to, and one of the things that I've been doing, because I have really, in the last 3 or 4 months, I've been on just a hunger for reading. I am about 6, 7 books or whatever in, or what I have just, and I'm finishing up a book today. I just got finished reading David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, Will Smith, John Thompson. I'm about to start the 1619 project. But let me get to this. This above all, to thy own self be true. Now, I knew the second line, to thy own self be true. I would say it all the time. But I didn't read the whole thing, and that's what I want to do. Sorry for taking so long with it. This above all, to thy own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thus cannot then be false to any man. Now, for you non-Shakespearean readers, Shakespeare can play with words to the point that you get frustrated, makes you feel like you're reading the King James version of the Bible. And don't front, don't act like you guys really love the King James version, because sometimes the these, the thous, and those will toss you for a loop. I enjoy the King James version myself, but I also have the NIV version sometimes when I want to read it a little bit clearer or whatever, and that's just me. But if you enjoy it, okay. But again, I want to go back to what Shakespeare is saying, because it fits what I'm talking about today. This above all, meaning nothing else matters but this. And I think that's important, that he's making this statement. Above all, meaning this right here is above everything else that you're thinking about doing. And I like that. To thy own self be true, meaning be honest with yourself, which connects to what I'm talking about in terms of doing a self-reflection. An honest self-evaluation. I mean all of it, from your size to your brain, everything that affects you and makes you who you are. When is the last time you have sat down and did a complete mental overhaul and really dug into how you got to be right here today, whatever day you're watching this? Now, as it must follow as the night does the day, which means you cannot have the day without the night. They follow each other no matter what. And the only time they don't, you're dead. Hear what I just said. The only time the night and day don't follow each other is when you are dead, because then you won't have any idea of what's going on this side. Shakespeare is a bad boy. And I love reading Shakespeare because I'm a wordsmith. I play with words too, but I would love to believe that someday I could be on this level. Thou canst not then, meaning so then you cannot be false to any man. And what he's saying is, if you're going to be honest with yourself, you cannot be out here lying to people. Yo, when I read the whole thing in its context, now I have said for years, to thy own self be true, because I understood that we have to be honest to ourselves. But I didn't go back and peep that Shakespeare is saying, because you can't be out here talking to people if you suspect, which means the streets had it right. The streets had it right. And this is why often we don't give the streets its credit. We don't give our hood philosophers enough credit. We don't give our Jay-Z's, Biggies, and Nas And many of our hood cats the credit that they deserve because they were able to put it in hip hop forms of music, but was saying some of the same things so-called scholars were saying. We've known for years that if you're suspect out in these streets and you're phony, ain't nobody rocking with you. And that's what Shakespeare is saying. So now, Keith, you may say, Keith, what does this have to do with what you're talking about? It has everything to do with it. You cannot be real to self if you're not willing to do an honest reflection of who you are. Hey, Sharice, good morning. You cannot be good to anyone.
And good morning to you too.
Sorry, Siri, this ain't about you right now. You cannot be good to anyone until you understand you. Now, as a professional counselor, as somebody who is paid to listen to people's problems, paid to help figure those problems out, or to help them, more importantly, help them figure out their problems. My job is to listen, and my job is to be honest, even if it hurts them. Well, I can't be that if I'm not honest with myself. And that's the part that stands out to me that Shakespeare is saying. Thou cannot then be false to any man. He is saying you can't be out here phony to people and you're not honest with yourself. And you know what the last 6 months have taught me? That some of the people on social media who you think are whatever, they're not. Now, we call it catfishing when somebody purposely leads you to believe they are something else. Whole new term, whole new language, because catfishing was not a thing. Because it wasn't capable, because we didn't have social media like that. So you had to rock with, you heard a voice and somebody's voice may be sexy. Then you meet them and be like, oh, Lord, I got to go. But what I'm saying to anybody watching, thank you, Shrews. But what I'm saying to you is, when's the last time that you did an honest self-reflection? Because here's what you're going to find, right? And this is what I found stepping away from social media just this past week. One, I was spending way too much time on social media. And by setting the well-being app on my phone, I now have only 30 minutes on all of the apps, 30 minutes. And that's just to get on, check messages, whatever. But I turned off all the notifications. I don't get notified when people are liking my stuff or if they left me a message or comment. I turned all that off. The peace that comes with that was incredible. The other thing I realized was that there's so much that I have not done that I got to get done, because it's what I want to do for me. It's what I want to do for my business. It's what I want to do for my family. And it's what I want to do for others. Another thing that I noticed, I've done pretty good this past year and a half. I've done pretty good. I didn't allow myself to actually think about that. Shout out to Glenn P. Brooks Jr., my business coach, and shout out to Terkessa Colvin, my literary coach. My businesses have done pretty good, but I guess because where I come from, if you start feeling yourself, you could lose it. I didn't really stop and allow myself to dig in and actually just accept the blessings. I just kind of acknowledged them and kept it moving. If you look over my left shoulder here, right about there, that's my Delaware business license, right? I just got that the other day. Now, my business has the second business, the bigger one. Let me do this. The smaller one is my Delaware license. This one is my incorporation from my business in New York. So I have a business in New York and I have a business here in Delaware, right? And one is my publishing company. One is my consultation company. Okay. So with that said, I didn't stop to think about what God has allowed me to do, or the number of people that God has allowed me to help over the years. I didn't stop. Well, I acknowledge God. Let me just say this. I acknowledge God all the time. I thank God all the time for the things that he has allowed me to do, and actually just being here at 54 years old. But I didn't stop to just take in the blessings, to realize that I've been doing pretty good in the midst of a pandemic. And I don't know if it's just because I maybe worry about it, losing it if I get too comfortable. I heard Will Smith talk about that in his book, is that one of the hardest things with being successful is that you worry about not being successful. So you start to do things that may not be the best things for you. I understood that. Now, I'm not on the Will Smith level, but his book spoke to my spirit. So I say this to anybody watching, and Sharice, I hope this resonates with you since you're here. I don't know how many other people are on. I'm on multiple sites, but Sharice commented. And if you're on, jump in the comments and just leave me a 1, or let me know where you're seeing me from. Let me know where you're at. You know, I see that. I think there's a couple people on. Let me know where you're from. What I've realized is that we have to take time to look back where we were, how we got here, and then, hey, Kathy, appreciate you. Kathy from New York. Oh, yes, that's what I'm talking about. My home city. We have to look back at where we were to really enjoy how we're here. And even if it was negative, let me tell you why, right? Let's say your travels to today were negative. You may say, well, Keith, I don't want to go back over that pain. I feel you. And as a counselor, I get it. But in that pain, right, there's blessings. In that pain, there's little bits of gold, if not major bits of gold. Good morning, Rhonda. How you doing? No, there's nothing wrong with comparing yourself, Rhonda. Understand, there's nothing wrong with comparing yourself. It is not, you don't want to become them. So I just want to, I want to push back a little bit on what you said. It is not, we should compare, because if other people have been successful in our comparisons, we can find what we're missing. It is when we want to be somebody else that we lose ourselves. We have to compare. And especially us brothers and sisters who are Christians, we're comparing a lot of that what Jesus did in our own lives. So the comparison is never a problem. In New Jersey, we got New Jersey in the house as well. Cool. And thank you, Kathy. I appreciate you for saying that. But it is when we want to become somebody else that is the problem, Rhonda, because then we lose ourselves. And that's what Shakespeare is saying about to our own self be true, but thou canst then be false to any man. And again, when I read that, this above all, to thy own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou cannot then be false to any man. Meaning that you have to be true to self, and you cannot be false to anybody else if you call yourself being true. And those of us that practice the Christian faith know that the Lord says you cannot do for your brother if you are not righteous. If you're not doing it the right way for yourself, you can't be out here trying to help other people. And let me tell y'all something. The number of people on social media that we pay attention to who are struggling internally, struggling socially, struggling emotionally, and more importantly, struggling spiritually. But they will present to you that they got it all together. And let me tell you something. I have worked with some of these people. Now, I'll never out them, and I'll never put their information out there. I won't do that. But I can tell you that there's some people out there who you think got it all together, and they are in very bad places. And that's something that from my own self-reflection. So I'm asking you, when's the last time that you've actually sat down and really dug into who you are, what you're trying to do, how you got here, and where you're trying to go? And if you have an idea, you can put it in the chat if you like. I'm here for it. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'm here for that as well. Yes, I'm losing myself. I was losing myself just a month ago, lost my connection with God, needed to find my way back to God. Right now, I'm on a spiritual journey. Amen. Let's go, Sharice. Let's go. That's it right there. And let me tell you something, guys. For those of us that practice the Christian faith, part of our self-reflection is a reconnection with our faith, like Cherie mentioned. But if you're part of the Muslim faith, well, part of your reconnection is going to be to the Islamic faith. And whatever your faith is. Now, let's say you have no faith. Let's say you are atheist and you don't believe in any of that formal religion. I got you. Then it has to be a reflection on what you have done for self and others that led you to be right where you are. I am in the midst of some physical, emotional, and spiritual changes. I have had to come to the realization of some things that I don't like about myself. I have come to the realization that there's some things in my business that I have failed to do, but yet I gave good word to it. And it was hard to acknowledge that. It was hard. It was hard to accept that I was a failure in certain aspects of my life, while being an outstanding success in other areas. And when I found it very difficult for me, then the first thing I started thinking about is, now I know why so many people won't seek counseling, won't come to a professional, won't talk to somebody in church, won't talk to somebody in school, won't talk to somebody on the job, because they're embarrassed. Or they don't have the words to be able to put into to idea of how they failed themselves or others. Because if you're failing yourself, you're failing somebody else. I'm sorry to say that. If you are failing yourself, then you are failing people you know and people you don't. Because right now, there's somebody out there waiting on Sharice. There's somebody out there waiting on Kathy. There's somebody out there waiting on Rhonda. There's somebody out there waiting on me. And because we haven't evolved into the better version of ourselves, they're not going to have that interaction. Now, that doesn't mean that many of us are not pushing and trying. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But many of us are not pushing to the level that we should get to for whatever reason. And that's what you have to actually do the self-reflection for, to try to figure out what are the things that's hindering you. And the books that I have been reading have helped me with that. The books that I have been reading and listening to the successes of other people and reading my Bible and listening to podcasts. And I tend to look at people who have gone through negative situations. Hey, JJ, and thank you, Kathy. Because I want to know what it was for them, and then it gives me something to look at in myself. The thing that we can get from reading the stories of others, the testimonies of others, is that we can see what someone in this same human existence as us went through and made it, or went through and failed. And if we're smart enough to take that information and act on it, we might be able to prevent that destruction in ourselves, and that's learning. Many of us don't change what we do until some type of pain kicks in. I tell my daughter on a regular basis, you can ask her, she's 8 years old. If you were to ask her, who are the two greatest teachers? Now, you would think she would say her father, who's an outstanding educator, but no, I'm not. I'm not one of the greatest. I like to believe I am, but here's the two greatest teachers ever. One is pain. Pain is undefeated as a teacher. You will learn quickly because of pain. Here's the second undefeated teacher that stands on that same goated level. Greatest of all time is what GOAT stands for, by the way. Time. Time and pain are the two greatest teachers. Now, you have experiences, you have pleasure, you have love. All of those are right under that. But pain, ooh, Lord, pain teaches you instantly. Instantly. Touch that pot again. Ooh, Lord. I was embarrassed because I was going through a depression because I wasn't loving myself, expecting anyone and anything in my life. Found out my son have cancer. So I know that pain is now it's time to heal. Amen. And Sharice, I'm glad you said that. A lot of people think depression or depressive state of mind is embarrassing. It's not. It's actually part of being human, that we're not where we should be. And often it's also a signal that we could have gotten help before it got to that point, but it is a clear indication that we need help at that moment. And that's super important. So I thank you for sharing that, because it's super important that we acknowledge that when we don't put the brakes on a negative slope, that pit that we slide into, that depression pit, that depressive pit that we slide into, is so murky that once you're in it, you stop seeing the light of what you used to be. And if you stay in that pit long enough, you give up on the light. If you allow yourself to stay in a pit of depression for too long, you start to give up or even stop even thinking that the light exists. And what I found over the years, because I was a person that loved to be alone, I had to really balance out being alone and being lonely. I don't get lonely anymore. I enjoy being alone. And I got that because the more I started to read the Bible, I realized that Jesus spent time alone. He needed that. He needed to get away from people. I got this. What I'm in the midst of doing right now. I committed to come on every Friday because I still wanted to stay connected to people who want to hear me. But I gave up the rest of the social media stuff because I needed to find me. And I'm doing that. And I'll be checking in every Friday around this time, 9:30, 10 o'clock, because I depends on if I have a counseling session. But in a short time leading up to this week, I found that my physical health was getting better, but should be on a different level. So I'm addressing that. My emotional health was on high. My emotional health was, oh man, it's through the stratosphere. But here's what I realized. There were things that I had to go back in here to reconnect that I wasn't doing that was affecting business. And then my spiritual health was great. But then I realized in my quiet time with talking to God, I wasn't doing enough. Yeah, I said it. I was doing some great things and have been doing some great things in the name of the Lord. Amen. But I wasn't doing enough because there was more that I could do if I shifted my time. There were more people I could help if I shifted my time. There were blessings that I had been given that I overlooked because I was driving myself. I didn't stop to actually get out the car and and take a deep breath, or just to sit back and go, every one of those plaques on the wall back there is an accomplishment of a major level. And I didn't stop to realize what God had brought me to. I just said it to my wife this morning. I didn't take time to acknowledge everything God had given me. I acknowledged some. And in doing that, it opened up the door to have me realize there's more people that I can help, because the more I acknowledge what God has given me, the more I understand how to help other people who may want to do those things. So yes, you can be blessed and still be falling over yourself at the same time. Understand that God is that great and we're human. And I don't know who needed that this morning. And Sharice, I appreciate you being on. JJ, I appreciate you being on. Kathy, I appreciate you being on. And Rhonda, I appreciate you being on. Because God knew we'd be right here at this time talking, or you listening, and everything else. I'm about to go on a spiritual journey of my own, and I'm going away alone to connect back with God myself. No phone, no social media, nothing I need for myself, to be alone. Yes, amen. Thank you, Kathy. I'm glad. I appreciate that. And Sharice, that's important. I like what you said. No phone, no social media. Here's the funny thing, Sharice. Depending on what phone you have, you can go in and turn off your notifications. It's in your privacy settings. And by you can turn off your notifications to your messenger. You can turn off your notifications for every app on your phone. You can turn your notifications off. So you don't actually have to get rid of your phone, but you can silence your phone. Where if you don't want to hear from anybody on Facebook, open up the Facebook app, turn off the notifications. You don't want to hear from your message, your SMS messages, text messages. You don't want to hear from them, but you want to make sure you get them. Turn off the notification. Turn off the notification and set your time when you're going to check your phone. Make sure that you let somebody know where you're going to be and a way for somebody to reach you in case there's an emergency. And then you close out the world and have your time with your deity. If you are a Christian, your time with God. If you're a Muslim, your time with Allah. And whatever it is that you practice, take that time. Because let me tell you something. Social media is good and bad to equal proportions. It is what you're trying to get from it. There is as many righteous people on social media as there is evil. The problem is they look the same. So you should have an idea of what you're coming on social media for. And another way to evaluate, are you getting what you need? And that is what positive self-reflection does. That is what taking the time. And JJ, same thing, bro. We talked, and I appreciate the direction that you're going in, and I like the changes that you're making. You just have to keep pushing yourself. Needed to hear this today. Yes, I'm turning off everything, and thank you for taking time out to speak to some of us. Oh, thank you, Sheree. Sheree, that made my day, you being on. Let me tell you, Kathy, JJ, and Rhonda, anytime I come on and turn this camera on, I pray that I can reach just one person. I was that way when I went into the classroom. If I can just reach one student today, I'm doing my job. And it always ended up being more. But the fact that you guys are on today, then you guys needed to be here with me directly. And I appreciate it. And there's probably more watching in other places. And I appreciate all of it because that's the one thing that I've started to really take notice of. I don't worry about the masses. I deal with the people who showed up. Because to change one person's life, you have done yeoman's work. You have done major work. Because to get somebody to accept what you're offering and it helps them find them, that's a beautiful thing. And at times I had overlooked that because I was wondering why the masses didn't feel what I was saying. And I caught myself and I said, you know what? I've never been flashy. I've never been the dude who's like, hey, look at me. But I was a dude that people saw. Check what I just said. I was never the flashy dude, but you saw me. I didn't understand that because when I was just out about me, when I was out here pimping, it was all because I was trying to get something. And I lost that guy when I made the changes to become the godly man. But I forgot that that guy's talents, the whore that I was, his talents are needed because I still got to serve God. I just don't have to serve him in the way I did trying to serve myself. That's come from self-reflection. Now, peep what I just said to you. What you used to be and how you used to do it to serve yourself, you can take those same talents that you use for negative reasons and use them for positive gain in helping other people and using some of the same skills. What's your definition of service? Helping anybody in whatever capacity that you have, brother. So if I'm a speaker, I need to speak more. If you're a writer, you need to write more. If you're a helper, you need to help more. If you're a person that helps people to get calm, then help them get calm. Then serve, brother. Ask yourself that question. Then how many people are you serving? And if you can't answer that, then you've already realized what you need to do. And all of us need to do the same thing. What is it that we put out into this world that helps other people? Challenge yourself with that today. Appreciate you asking that question, JJ. Thank you. Self-reflection and a self-evaluation opens up the door to an idea of what you need to do. The next step is doing the damn thing. But that's what you got to ask yourself. What do I do that helps other people? And how can I recreate that? Because in doing that, you will find happiness. And if you have to do like Sharice says, turn off the phone, turn off social media and take your time away, do that. Because that's what I did this week. And let me tell you something, like a junkie, let me tell you how I realized I was semi-addicted to social media. Do you realize that I literally was kind of like sneaking on, like I was cheating on my hiatus, that I literally was trying to sneak on. And then when I was on, I started, what am I doing? I was like, now yesterday was one of the first days that I kind of gave in and was sitting in, and I turned my timer off when I was sitting down, and I had been on social media for about an hour and change, right? And I said, what am I doing? My wife said, what's the matter? And I said, I turned my timer off. She said, your social media timer, the one you told me about? I said, yes. She said, why'd you do that? I said, I don't know. I said, like a damn junkie, I turned back on social media when I said I was off, and I quickly got off. And I said, damn, I'm connected to social media like that. And I quickly put my timer back on, and I put my phone down. Thank you, Tamari. I said one day I would have wake up at night. Yeah, I don't check. You know what's funny is when I get up at night, I don't pick my phone up. I realize that. I don't even pick it up. I don't pick my phone up until the morning. And what I realized is that overall for this week, the time taken from social media, I got more work done. And I wrote up more notes. And I realized that I have a way, I have the means, if I do it right, to not only keep changing my family's life, but to augment the direction that they're going in, because I can create new pathways. That's more important than me sitting on social media looking at people who I don't even know, who are probably going through some foolishness. And I started thinking about it. And the funny thing was, when I really realized it was when I started looking at some of the things that I had seen, and I was like, I'm not really enjoying my time on social media. I get more fun when I'm getting work done. I'm having more fun completing my progress reports, as crazy as that sounds. I'm having more fun with my counseling sessions. I'm having more fun with the books that I'm reading. And now I'm reading this other book for the second time because it was a short book. And then all of a sudden, my mind started to expand. My mind started to say, wait a minute, big dog, we got a whole lot more to do. And then I turned and looked at this wall, right? Certificate of baptism. And I thought about it. My reconnection to God. My completion of a course that actually altered my life from my business coach. My first book, A Man in Transition. My first book was the first time when somebody told me you shouldn't publish poetry. And I said, well, I'm going to. My first book, and not only was it a success, I won 4 awards from 4 of the poems that was from that book, A Man in Transition. It's on my website, bravenpublishing.com. Above that, Tiff and I featured in Ebony magazine in 2012, where we talked about my life. And Tiff talked about my life. Tiff wrote the article that was accepted by Ebony on Us, 2012. Above that, I'm a certified marriage counselor. My business, the second one, the big one, Belvin Publishing, Department of State, is a certified LLC. My certificate of ministry, yes, I can actually do weddings. I'm an ordained minister. I don't talk about it because it's not the regular ordained ship that most people go through. I felt kind of bad. Voice told me that the man could easily be you, Jamie. Yes. There you go, Jamie. Okay, thank you. I sometimes get impatient and tell myself I'm not, I can do negative. No, listen, bro. You're making positive changes. Stay in the moment like we talked about. You have a lot going on, bro. Now, that is my master's degree from Walden University. Master's degree from Liberty University. Master's degree from Walden University. My bachelor's degree from York College, CUNY. My associate's degree from Kingsborough, and a couple of citations from the state of Maryland, Long Island, that's Baltimore. So I've been recognized in a couple of different places. And I was sitting here thinking about it. And I said, every one of those plaques on the wall have a story. Every one of those plaques on the wall put me in connection to somebody else. Every one of those plaques speaks to a moment in my life where somebody else or something recognized what I was doing. And I had glossed over that because I'm so used to looking this way that I wasn't looking behind me. Congratulations, Sharice. I love it. The only thing that I regret from my baptism is that my grandmother wasn't alive to see me. She would have lost her mind to see me baptized again when it was her that told me that I would be this years before I became it. She knew. She trusted God then. She trusted God when I was in the womb and told me that she told God while I was in the womb. She knew. You're a master of your success. That's a blessing. Amen. Thank you, Sharice. I appreciate that. And I'm going to hold on to that. I like that. You're a master of your success. I love that. I'm going to hold on to that. Brother Frank, what's going on, sir? Good to see you. I'm just doing me, my man, trying. I've been on social media. I've been off social media all week, and very sparingly. All my apps are set to 20 minutes. That's it. And my phone will turn the app off once I reach the 20 minutes. It actually tells me you have 5 minutes left. You have 1 minute left, and then it shuts it off. It's okay. Yes, she saw, and I hold on to that. Yes. And Sharice, let me tell you something, Sharice, that's interesting that you say that, because when I lost my mother in 20 to COVID, I realized that I had become what both of those women wanted me to be. Hey, Carrie, how we doing, love? I had realized I had became exactly what my mother and grandmother expected me to be. So they prepared me to be here once they left. And I realized that my job now is to prepare everyone around me so when I go, I left something behind, not knowing when that time is going to come. And God says, no man or woman knoweth the day or time of their own departure, just like no man or woman knoweth the time when Jesus returns. And that's why you should live every day with purpose, because you don't know if it shall last. This morning, I ran into a man on the street and I was rude to him. That's what, okay, I got you. So you ask the Lord to forgive you and go help somebody else. We cannot dwell. Now, let me just say this, and I'm glad Jamie brought that up. We cannot dwell on the errors that we have made, but we can reflect and learn from them. And shout out to Sharice, shout out to Jamie, shout out to Frank, shout out to my auntie Carrie, who's here. Shout out to Rhonda, who is here, and shout out to Tamari, who is here. But we cannot dwell in our negativity. We cannot dwell in what we did wrong. We can learn from it. Use it as motivation. Use it as gas, as high as these gas prices are. But use it. That's why God doesn't strip us of our memories. He wants us to use it. And let me tell you why. The new person that you help, Jamie, won't know that your motivation came from the last person that you hurt. Let me say this to anybody watching. When you can do a self-reflection and self-evaluation, the new people that you meet won't even know of what your past was. That's so hard for me to do. I am so trying this not to feel guilty for my past mistakes. I understand, Tamara, and many of us struggle with that. That's where professional counseling comes in. That's why when you sit with a counselor, and if your counselor is worth their grain of salt, and I do this in my own counseling sessions, right? I tell folks, we're going to go back into the past and we're going to get the information, not the pain, not the emotion. And I say this, I go, check this out. I'm going to ask you questions about your past. I'm going to help you give me the information, but we're going to leave the emotion back there. And then we're going to come forward with it and put it into some type of plan that I'm going to help you get through. That's what professional counseling is. This is what I do every day. But I could not do that if I wasn't honest with myself. And it goes back to what Brother Shakespeare says. And for you guys that just came on, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you. Shakespeare says, this above all, to thy own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou cannot then be false to any man. You cannot be who you say you are to other people if you are lying to yourself. You have to come to grips with what you were, who you are, and what you want to be. We have all past, we all have a past that we're not proud of, but we can do better now. Amen, Sharice. And that is true. And I use my past. I share with folks that I was a misogynistic whore that was just diabolical. And I have made mistakes. I have slept with women that I should have never even been close to. And a ton. It's like 400 something, maybe more. I'm not proud of it. I was nasty. But I own my mistakes. And I said sorry to as many people as I could. And then I said publicly sorry to all of them. And I even wrote a book to show you how I went through that transition. But here's the mistake that I made. I got quiet. I didn't talk enough about the transition. I didn't offer more people opportunity to come in and ask me questions. That's what I meant about being blessed and still not serving God the way I was supposed to. I was supposed to talk more. I was supposed to tell other men how you can become something different. I was supposed to help more women to protect them from men like me. I'm doing it now, but I was supposed to have done that. But I don't trip on that. I use it as fuel to keep me going now. That's why this week was needed. That's why this week I needed to sit down and get away from social media because I had to check myself. Boy, what are you doing? And I'm literally watching people who have nothing to do with my life. So why am I giving these folks this time? What is that saying about me? And I had to check me, and I realized it was a form of procrastination to not get work done. And I had to check myself on that. And I have all my stuff now. I joined the Y. I'm going swimming. And then I had to check myself on why I didn't get up at 5 a.m. to go. I had to check myself. And I didn't like the answer that I got back. But I had to deal with it because it was real. This week has been very reflective in understanding the things that I have held on to for no reason and the things I have not been able to do. I wrote up a whole new plan for my business last night, and I took a bunch of notes, and I realized there was just so much that I needed to do. I don't know if you can see this, but I wrote a ton of notes last night. I don't know if you can see it, but I wrote a ton. And I realized that I have a business coach who has been tremendous. And I have enough people around me, and I have an outstanding wife who helps me in every capacity. I have an outstanding daughter. I have some outstanding people in my circles. I have some outstanding people that I'm connected to business-wise. Shout out to Lauren Green, who I had a phone conversation, who just got his PhD. So he is Dr. Green now. Yes, you did. And trust me, you're not the only woman made those same mistakes. I was one. Just to be loved. I'm not ashamed of it because I am human. God checked me, and now I can speak on it. And because people like you spoke out, thank you. You're well. Oh, Sharice, thank you. You're making my day to day. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And what I realized is that Brother Lauren and I met 10 years ago, something like that. Yeah, like 10 or 11 years ago. Here we are still connected. And here he just got his PhD and just had his child a couple of months back. And I realized that when I look at who God has surrounded me with, who God has brought to me through counseling, and who God has removed from me, I realized that I was underusing the blessings because I didn't stop and think about why he removed or showed me what certain people were. And then I realized that it makes no difference how successful they are. What are they bringing to your life? What are they pouring into you? And when I started to see it, and I started to see that some people on very lesser levels, way lesser than some of the other folks I'm connected to, it reminded me of the story when Jesus asked, which offering is more, from the rich person or the woman with the 2 coins? And the disciple said, the rich person, because he's giving more. And Jesus said, nah, got it wrong, bruh. The chick with the 2 coins, because she's giving what she has, and she has faith that God is going to replicate it. So she's giving from a position where it may put her at a lesser position once she gives it, but she knows she's going to get it back. That is worth more. And I forgot that. And what I started to realize is that I had some people close to me who have been pouring into me from the beginning. They don't do much. They share it here and there. They give me a little thumbs up here and there. They pat me on the back virtually or physically when they see me. May not give me a dime, and that's okay, because you know what I started to realize? Their time, their consistent connection. They're sharing and acknowledging what I'm doing by simply going, let me let the people on my page see this brother. And then when I thought about it, they're doing yeoman's work over some people who got millions that know me, that are connected to other millionaires. And what I realized is that if they had a platform, they would tell millions, but they don't. So they tell who they can tell. And I said, you know what, Keith, you got to reevaluate that. You got to start asking yourself, why are certain people in your circles? Who's using who here? How'd you go from the pimp to the hoe? Let me say that again. How'd you go from the pimp to the hoe? Take it for all it's worth. So as I get ready to finish up, because I got a counseling session in a little bit, let me just double check, because I don't want to be late for my session. Okay, I got some time. I want to say this to anybody who's watching. And Sharice, shout out to you. Frank, shout out to you. Tamari, James, Jamie, Rhonda, Auntie. And who did I miss? I think I missed one person. I got Rhonda. Oh, Kathy. Thank you so much. Let me say something to you. I'm no pastor. I'm just an educator. Some people have asked me about being a pastor, but no, I'm not a pastor. I actually am one of the fivefold ministry, as I am a real educator from Ephesians 4. I am actually a teacher minister. So my pastoring is this right here, using this and speaking. I just wasn't doing it enough. But I appreciate that, Sharice. You never know. You're right. You never know. You know what? I'll consider that. Not closing the door to anything. I'll pray on that. And actually, when you're in your quiet place and you're in your quiet place, add that to your prayer list for me. Ask the Lord to grant me clarity on if he would want me to go that route. I ask you to speak on my behalf. I appreciate you doing that, sister. Because that is something that my grandmother actually mentioned. She said, you're going to preach this word. And I've been preaching it, but maybe it might be time to go in the pulpit. Who knows? Maybe. But I hang out with pastors too, and I have a great connection to pastors. And actually, that is something that I have been doing in terms of building my mental health ministries. I'm actually doing that. And there's the information. If anybody has a church that does not have a ministry that actually deals with mental health, reach out to me. Let me know. I will reach out to your pastor and have a conversation about helping them build a mental health ministry, because it is something I've created. I work with 1, 2, 3 churches directly right now, and I'm in the process of building and reaching out to new individuals that I'm going to be working with to build the team. But that's actually one of the things that's in my notes, is to create the database necessary for churches to be able to get involved. So I'm actually creating behind the scenes the things that I want to see put in place. So Sharice, you might be on to something. So I'm going to pray about that. So I'm not going to say I'm not. So let me do that. Sharice just sparked something into me. I'm going to write that down. Actually, there we go. I'm going to write that down and see how it plays and everything else that the Lord has me doing at the moment, because it might be time. You never know. But to anybody watching, I want to leave you with this. Positive mental health, right, starts with a clear understanding of where you are with yourself emotionally and where and how you're feeling. Now, not all of us are going to be positive at all times, but you should have someone in your life that you can speak to. I am one of those people. I am one of those people that have committed themselves to this right here. And let me just show you these 2 things right here. This is one of the things that I have committed to. And it's actually one of the foundational scriptures for me. Galatians 6:2. Carry each other's burden, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. And I had gotten away from that because I had muted myself. I stopped talking online. And I found that I had to ask the Lord to forgive me for not speaking more because I felt people didn't want to hear what I had to say. I felt that I wasn't reaching as many people. I was comparing myself. And shout out to Rhonda for saying that we shouldn't compare ourselves. But the thing was funny was it wasn't comparison to the positive. It was comparing to the negative. So shout out for Rhonda for bringing that up. I was leveraging myself against other people, actually looking at why I'm not what they are and stop looking at self. And in doing so, I quieted myself. And then I realized I can't do that because I'm not that. I am me. I am the only Keith K.L. Belvin on this planet. And God gave me a unique voice, a unique story, even if it sounds like somebody else's. And what makes it unique? Because I am unique, just like you are unique in the talents that you have. And back to what you were saying, JJ, service looks like what you do for other people. And what God gave me to do was to teach and to talk and to reach people in a way that allows them to feel comfortable with letting out their pain. And so you always hear me, and if this is the first time you hear me, one of my hashtags is "We can fix this." The other hashtag is "Bring me your pain." And I realized the reason why I asked people to bring me their pain is because I was built to absorb it. I was built to do something with it. My brain works in a certain way that it's activated when somebody offers me some type of negativity that they're dealing with. My brain is actually wired that way. It's been that way for years. I just didn't realize it. I read a book by Pastor Max Lucado, The Cure for the Common Life. He says, if you want to figure your life out, if you're struggling with who you are, if you want to figure it out, he says, live your life backwards and think of all the things that you did at ease that other people kind of marveled at or just said, well, you the little whatever, aren't you? You do that. You do that little thing well. And over the years, you will start to see your gifts that God has given you. But what you'll notice is that many of us went in different directions than our gifts because we needed to make money or other situations or other people. But your gift is there because when you are activating your gift, other people felt comfortable in receiving it. That's the key. Even if it was like, oh, Keith, when I used to fry chicken, I would have the whole neighborhood in the backyard. Well, that's one of your gifts. Now, the funny thing is God will allow you to use your gifts to make money. But most people, because they're caught at looking at other people, stop using their gifts, so they don't believe their gifts can make money because they're comparing themselves to other people. I say don't do that. Look at your gifts. Read and incorporate the things around you in such a way that God can flow through you, and then watch what he brings to you. Hear me again. Allow God to flow through you and watch what he brings to you. I had to learn that. And I learned that the more I open my mouth and do the things that God has positioned me to do, the more he rewards me. Sometimes in ways that I cannot figure. And I don't anymore. I thank him and I keep moving. And it's one of the reasons why the physical aspect was something that I wanted to work on. It was because I can control that. And I'm doing that. So I don't know who needed this today, but from Sharice's comments, she did, and Kathy did, and Frank did, and Tamari did, and JJ did, and Carrie did, and Rhonda. And I think I got everybody right. So listen, guys, what do you mean you are definitely, let me see. What do you mean a lot of you are definitely a blessing? And I, thank you. And you blessed me today because your comments let me know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Because the Lord says when one returns, the angels celebrate. And then he said, doesn't a man who has 99 coins celebrate when he finds the one he's lost? Doesn't the man who has a flock of sheep celebrate when one returns to the fold? And I realized that if we reach the one, you did what you were supposed to do. Thank you, Tamari. I appreciate that. And keep up the great work. And congratulations on your upcoming nuptials. You about to be married again. Congratulations, sister. But whatever it is for you, take time to do some self-reflection, guys. If you got to turn off social media, turn it off. If you got to step away, you won't miss anything. People will find you. Whatever you need to do to help you find you. Now, here's the key. Once you find you, go on out there and serve people. When you come back to social media, come back stronger with a message that helps more people. You will be blessed. Don't worry about you. Don't make it about you. I'm learning that, and I'm getting better at it. So I'll see you guys next Friday. I'll be back on 9:30, 10 o'clock, probably around 10. I don't think I have a counseling session, so it'll probably be around 10 o'clock. I'll check in weekly. You won't see no posts or anything like that on my social media pages. I do pop in because I have a couple of groups of people that I have to deal with. So I kind of pop in there, but I don't stay on long. But when I'm on to talk, it'll be next week. So here's what I want you to do before I go. All right. Because I do have a counseling session that I get ready for. I want you to like this. Wherever you're watching me from, hit the like button right now. If you're watching me on YouTube, subscribe. God willing, always God willing. Amen. So I want you to like this. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. I want you to like this post if you're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Now I want you to share it, but I don't want you just to share it and just hitting the share button and sharing it. I want you to share it and say, check this guy out, and I want you to tell them why. I want you to tell them what you got out of today. So here's how it looks. Hey, you should check out this guy, Keith, because I enjoyed this. And leave that with the people on your page. And before I go, in my comments right now, before I jump off, I want you to give me one thing that you got from listening to me today. Whenever you watch this, one thing. I want you to write it in the comments what you got from today. Keith, I took this from today. Or Keith, thank you for this today. I want you to write one thing. So I gave you a lot. Yes, I gave you a lot of orders. I asked you to like it or subscribe. I asked you to share with a comment. And now I'm asking you just for some feedback on what you got from today. All of it helps me because I'll be reading it. And then as I'm in my little hiatus, and I'll be back on next week. And last thing, I just remembered. Last thing. If there's any subjects that you want me to cover, if there's anything that you would like me to talk about, because I have gotten, let's see what I've gotten. Narcissism, forgiving or forgiveness, generational curses, trauma bonding, blended families, trust issues and insecurities, leaving toxic relationships, mama's boys, why do men hate counseling? My Miss Seeley theory that I talked about before, protecting children from social media, and triggers. Oh, you said that's not what you meant to say where, Rhonda? I'm sorry. I missed something. What did I miss? What did I miss? We talking about comparing ourselves to somebody else? Is that what we're talking about? I want to make sure I got it correct before I sign off. That's just a me thing. I don't like to sign off if I'm not clear on the way somebody felt about something. I don't like to ever not get what somebody said correctly. And if you need to reach out to me, if you go, I think I might need counseling, here we go. That is the link right there. If you want to set up a counseling call with me, there it is right there. But let me know what you're saying, Rhonda. I want to make sure that's not what I meant to say. I want to make sure I got what you were saying because I always want to make sure I'm clear and on the same page with somebody. I do the same thing in my counseling session. I want to make sure I'm 100% clear on what you were saying. But if you need to, there's my it's in my bio actually. Any whatever page you're on, in my bio is that link right there. So when you see that link right there, it's in my bio. That's to my link tree. All of my information is in my link tree, everything. So just click on that link. It's in my bio. You can't miss it. But again, guys, remember, thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Like and share with a comment. Leave me one comment wherever you are, what you got from today. And we're good to go. One thing, I appreciate that. So I'm going to get ready to go. I have to prepare my notes and stuff for my counseling session. And I want you guys to have a wonderful day and weekend. I'm going to do some more reflecting, finish reading up this book. Got some seafood on deck for tomorrow. And this weekend is going to be about cleaning. And I got to go practice some bowling. I got to get back on my grind. I got a tournament coming up in a couple of weeks. So I got to do some practicing. Okay. Guys, have a wonderful day. And again, thank all of you for taking the time out with me over this hour. I appreciate you, care about you, and I'll see you again on live next week. Thank you so much. Take care. Appreciate you, Sharice. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, JJ. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Tamari. Thank you, Carrie. And I think that is everyone. Blessings, God. Oh, thank you, Jose. You know what? I almost forgot. He's not on, but shout out to Jose who shares every time. Jose and Pam. Shout out to Jose and Pam. Love you guys. You share every time I'm on. I appreciate you. Love you. Have